A very Merry Christmas to all of you. Welcome to this special Christmas episode of Uncommon Sense. Today, we will bring to you some of our favorite Christmas memories and Christmas traditions as Gretelyn and I join along with the rest of the staff from the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton and talk to you about some of those stories. It will be a heartwarming episode for sure. Stay tuned. Welcome to Uncommon Sense, the official podcast of the Society of G.K. Chesterton. And again, a very Merry Christmas to all of you. I am Albert Saenz, and on this special episode, I am joined with my favorite co-host, Gretelyn Darkey. Gretelyn, how are you?
I am well, and Merry Christmas, Albert.
Thank you, Gretelyn. So good to be with you as we share in this Christmas episode. And as I mentioned in the introduction, we will be relaying and sharing some of the Christmas stories that some of the staff have shared. So what we did, ladies and gentlemen, is we spent the last several weeks gathering stories from staff that works at the Society of G.K. Chesterton. And we're going to share those with you during this episode, so you'll get to hear them as well. And we'll talk just briefly about them, but really this episode's about the stories and the traditions. And Gretelyn and I will find an opportunity to share our own stories within this time slot. So I hope that you're ready. Maybe you have something cozy and comfy to curl up with, a hot cup of cocoa and a peppermint candy cane. But without further ado, we're going to start. And to kick us off, we will start with the president of the Society of G.K. Chesterton, Dale Ahlquist. So let's give a listen to his Christmas stories and traditions.
This is Dale Ahlquist, president of the Society of G.K. Chesterton. And when I think of keeping Christmas, I think of something that G.K. Chesterton said. He said that when we observe Christmas, we are to some extent limited by the idea of a Christmas ritual, the recurrence of times and seasons. The thing is done at a particular time so that people may be conscious of a particular truth. And as is the case with all ceremonial observances, they are all meant to fix the mind upon the fact of the feast or the memorial, and suggest that a passing moment has a meaning when it would otherwise be meaningless. And yes, we observe certain rituals at Christmas. Every family does. Ours, well, one of the rituals that we keep at Christmas in our house is we eat filet mignon. It's just one of those traditions we've managed to keep year after year, along with the Christmas cookies and fine libations. There is that moment when we eat the filet mignon, cooked out on the grill, no matter what the weather is in Minnesota. And the worse the weather is, the better. Christmas is the winter feast, the celebration in defiance of winter. Just like Christmas itself, Jesus comes in defiance of the dark, cold world that has forgotten him. And we also keep another ritual. We obviously go to church. We used to go to a Protestant church, but at some point we started going to a Catholic church for Christmas. Happened about 25 years ago. In fact, this year is my 25th anniversary of being received into the church, and it was just a few days after Christmas in 1997. God bless you and have a very Merry Christmas.
What a beautiful memory. There's so much there to discuss. I love the image of Dale out on his porch or his deck, cooking the filet mignon on the grill in the snow in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm a little torn between having filet mignon on Christmas and the fact that he's been a Catholic for 25 years. So it's tough for me.
They're both
really, really good cut of meat
good.
and coming to a great faith, So that's hard.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, Albert and I are both cradle Catholics, with our own journeys, but it's just so wonderful to hear there's so many people in the society who are converts, and it's always so exciting to hear them talk about their experience. And 25 years, that's so exciting.
But I wonder how we'll just say for someone who becomes a Christian, I wonder how the experience of Christmas is for them. It must be such a different experience to be, not a believer, not a member of a faith community, and then to sort of accept Jesus Christ and to become a Christian and then to come to Christmas with a whole new kind of outlook on it. It really just must change the way you interpret Christmas.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it wouldn't.
It must make the filet mignon taste that much better.
Amen. Amen. Oh, wonderful. Well, up next we have our friend Maya, who works more on the schools network side of things, but she has shared with us a beautiful Christmas impression that she has with her family.
Hi, I'm Maya, and I work for the Chesterton Society as a part of the Chesterton Schools Network team. And my favorite Christmas memory is definitely going to church right before Christmas time. And when I was a child, I would join the children's choir with my little brother. And so we started doing that probably in about kindergarten for me, and then when he was in kindergarten again. And so I always remember, even in November, starting to sing Christmas carols and just getting so excited for Christmas Eve and for Christmas Mass, because that meant that I would be able to see all my family. And up until I was about maybe 12 or 14 years old, both my brother and I would be, going to Mass together and just so excited because we'd be able to sing the carols with my friends and family. And I definitely credit that to why I like to start celebrating Christmas in November, well before December even rolls around.
I really liked that story because it reminded me of being very young, and I was tapped on to read at the sort of Christmas drama that was put on at our parish. And my sister was also a reader, and it was a wonderful thing to look forward to. It was like this special part, of Christmas, just the way Maya was saying. It's the thing that you anticipate, and it's a part of it, right? Because you could say, oh well, I'm just excited about the Christmas tree and Christmas gifts or something, but those little things that you do that make you understand, like, this is part of the bigger celebration.
Beautiful. Yeah. And even that idea of, I know there's sort of this big debate, do you start celebrating at the beginning of Advent? Do you wait till Christmas? Of course, want to remind all our listeners, we're still in the Christmas season, this week after Christmas, all these 12 days, as Dale said. But, there is something celebratory, although there is, traditionally in the Catholic Church, something sort of penitential about Advent. There's also something celebratory. If you think about pregnancy and expecting a baby, there's something joyful and celebratory about that. So I don't fault Maya for for starting her celebrations in November.
Well, I'll take a break here to sort of share my own Christmas story, and it's kind of a fun one, right? Because I was probably, I'm going to say 6 or 7, and we live down in South Texas. And as incredible as it may sound, we actually had a chimney in our house. We had a full brick chimney in our house. Didn't get to use it that often down here, but it was nice to have. And we had this huge living room. And my parents, they'd set up the Christmas tree and they'd put the gifts under it. Now, a native tree to the South Texas area is the mesquite tree. And mesquite tree has a particular type of leaf, but it is also an extremely thorny tree. Very big, sharp, potentially dangerous thorns. So they're easy to catch on your clothes. And I should know this from years of mastering climbing mesquite trees. So I went to bed on Christmas Eve. I woke up the next morning, and in the fireplace was a broken branch from the mesquite tree with some red felt and white fluff material that had been torn from Santa's clothes. So I was, this small child and had realized that Santa had, in fact, been there and left a bit of his garments behind, thanks to being caught on the mesquite tree. And, really, I really think what the great thought there for me is the fact that my parents, really did their best to make Christmas a sort of wonderful and magical experience for, me and my sister. We were children, and it wasn't just, okay, well, the basics and let's move on. So I appreciate all that time that was spent, keeping me sort of in the awe and the wonder of the Christmas experience as a child. So that's my favorite Christmas memory. And
That's heartwarming. I like that.
yeah, no, it's good. It's a good one. So we'll keep on moving down the list here, and now we're gonna move over to Jen Finke, who helps with our social media, and we'll hear about her Christmas traditions.
Hi there. Merry Christmas. This is Jen Finke from the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. I am a member of the social media team, and I'd like to talk about two things regarding Christmas and Advent to you today. First of all, we really like to live liturgically in our house, and so we really focus on Advent during Advent and Christmas during Christmas. And in our little family, we started a Christmas tree tradition of doing the whole thing as a process to kind of mirror the waiting that is Advent. And so instead of putting up the entire Christmas tree at one time, we like to do it piece by piece. So we put up our tree on the eve of St. Nicholas on December 5th. And so we put out our shoes and we put up our tree, and the next morning we celebrate the feast of St. Nicholas. And then on December 13th, the feast of St. Lucy, we put the lights on our tree because Lucy's name means light. And then on Gaudete Sunday, the third Sunday of Advent, that great joyful Sunday where all of our priests don the rose vestments, we add all of our ornaments and other home decorations as well. So that's just kind of what we do in our little family to kind of slow down the process and keep it focused on Advent and the waiting period before Christmas happens. One of my favorite Christmas hymns is O Holy Night. And this takes me way back to my high school days as a band nerd. So shout out to all my fellow band nerds out there, especially any flautists. And when I was a sophomore in high school at Notre Dame Academy in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I had a wonderful band teacher. He was a really great instructor, but just kind of a down-to-earth, also a bit emotional kind of guy. And one day we were practicing for the Christmas concert, and we were practicing this arrangement of O Holy Night. And our band room was absolutely massive, and it had these huge ground-to-ceiling windows, picture windows. And so Mr. Barker could see out those windows over our heads as we were practicing, but all we could see is him. And so we finish practicing this arrangement of O Holy Night, and we look at him, and his baton's in the air, and I'm getting choked up here, and tears just start streaming down his face, and he says to us, "Look around, turn around, look outside." And just as we had hit the last note of the arrangement, it started snowing. The snow started to fall, and so that has always stuck with me. How striking music, the beauty of music and nature combined, can just elevate you to the glory of God. And so whenever I hear O Holy Night during the holidays, I think back to my band geek days. So that's a little bit more about me. I hope that you are enjoying this holy season of the birth of our Lord. And I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless.
So nice. Music is such a powerful medium for memory, for feeling. So many beautiful Christmas songs out there.
Well, and especially sort of, you know, she talks about music and beauty, and I think about snow and, the ability of nature to sort of bring us to the focus on God. I remember a specific Christmas Eve. It was 2004. I was the DRE at parish I worked at, and we were putting on a Christmas, a sort of a Christmas pageant play, retelling of the Nativity, and we went right into Mass, and it's all Christmas Eve night, and we came out, and in South Texas it doesn't snow, mind you, and we came out and it was snowing, and it was probably the most perfect kind of snow. So
Mm.
I can see how the combination of all of the elements, right? Music and experience and nature can sort of come together to sort of really uh, make you think about the higher things.
Mm. It's almost like a special gift at that point, the snow itself. And it's funny because, we often think of snow as some kind of, especially those of us who have to live in it for a lot of the year, as a nuisance. But it's also quite a beautiful thing, and it's nice to be reminded of that. Um, I would actually like to share a memory from our executive director, Emily de Rotstein. It's another musical memory, so I think it fits in nicely here. She wasn't able to record it, but I will read it, so I'm just going to channel my inner Emily, and these are her words. During this season, I often reflect on my childhood memories of Christmas growing up in Minnesota. I was raised Methodist, and my siblings and I were blessed to grow up in a faith-filled, loving home. My parents enjoyed decorating the entire home for Christmas. Trimming the tree was always a festive occasion. We would string popcorn and carefully examine and recount the story of each historic ornament. Once the tree was trimmed, we'd turn down the lights and sit around the Christmas tree, mesmerized by the beauty of the twinkling lights, the roaring fire in the fireplace, and the snow quietly falling outside. My parents would put on the album, The Holly and the Ivy, a 1960s recording of Christmas carols by the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. I loved all of those Christmas carols, but one song in particular was touching to me. It was called When Jesus Was a Little Child, composed by Tchaikovsky, also known as The Crown of Roses. That beautiful chorale music, the quiet of the season, the opportunity to reflect quietly on Christ, those are the Christmas memories that I cherished. If you haven't heard that beautiful Christmas hymn, make sure you take a listen this year. And just so that you have some context, it is a very unique hymn. So I'm just going to read the poetry of it right now. When Jesus Christ was yet a child, he had a garden, small and wild, wherein he cherished roses fair and wove them into garlands there. Now once as summertime drew nigh, there came a troop of children by, and seeing roses on the tree, with shouts they plucked them merrily. Do you bind roses in your hair? They cried in scorn to Jesus there. The boy said humbly, Take, I pray, all but the naked thorns away. Then of the thorns they made a crown, and with rough fingers pressed it down, till on his forehead fair and young, red drops of blood like roses sprung. That's again from our executive director, Emily de Rotstein. That song is a gorgeous song. If you haven't heard it, do go look it up. I've had the privilege to sing it. And it's just a very unique Christmas song in that it reminds us of Christ's suffering and his passion, which I think can be easy to forget about during the Christmas season. But much like we think of the song set by Bach, O Sacred Head Surrounded, as a song that hits for St. Matthew Passion, we think of that as an Easter song or a Holy Week song. But Bach actually set that as well, the same tune, different words, in one of his Christmas oratorios. And it's a similar kind of feeling. It's very interesting to think about, but the idea of connecting the birth and the cross. Jesus was born so that he might die to save us.
Yeah, I think that we want to celebrate the birth of Christ, but we have to remember that our faith culminates from the birth that led ultimately to the suffering and death of Christ, then to the resurrection. Like, it's, Christmas is kind of the warm and cozy feeling of our celebration of our Christian faith, and Easter has some rougher edges to it, if you will, what we have to go through to get to the celebration of the resurrection. But we don't get there. We don't get that high point of the resurrection, and which is the high point of our faith, without the birth, right? So they're linked together. Like, we can't leave one out. We can say, well, I'm just going to focus on the birth. Okay, well, then the faith doesn't complete without the death and resurrection. Well, we're just going to focus on death and resurrection. Well, he came from somewhere, so we got to be happy about his birth, right? So, yeah, it's definitely something. It's a wonderful hymn that helps sort of bind the two ends of Jesus' life together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we continue on down the list, and we move now to Joe Grabowski and his favorite memory. And I think that you're gonna enjoy this one.
Hello, everyone. This is Joe Grabowski, the Vice President for Evangelization and Mission here at the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to put in a plug at this wonderful time of year for my absolute favorite Christmas movie, which represents also one of my favorite Christmas stories, albeit with some modification. I'm speaking, of course, of the great film The Muppet Christmas Carol. And I'm not saying this tongue-in-cheek. It really is one of my favorite things to watch around the holidays, something that I make sure to pop the DVD in every year and sit down and take time to watch. And even though, of course, it's a little bit farcical, having the great Gonzo play the character of Charles Dickens as narrator, accompanied by his sidekick Rizzo the Rat, or seeing Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit, we do get in this film a wonderful portrayal of the character of Ebenezer Scrooge by the great Michael Caine. We have some beautiful songs, some wonderful moments, but really the chief feature of the film is just this wonderful atmosphere of coziness and comfort that it creates. And as Chesterton observed of all of Dickens' Christmas books, that atmosphere of comfort really is their primary and most striking quality. Chesterton spoke particularly of the Christmas Carol, writing, "The beauty and the real blessing of the story do not lie in the mechanical plot of it, the repentance of Scrooge, probable or improbable. They lie in the great furnace of real happiness that glows through Scrooge and everything around him, that great furnace, the heart of Dickens." And that love Dickens had, which Chesterton shared for the common man, especially for the poor, the joy at Christmas time and the joy and gratitude represented in giving to others rather than receiving, are qualities which I think this movie version of that great story really do bring out. And so I hope you'll take time with your family to give it a try this year. God bless and Merry Christmas.
My wife likes that movie a whole lot. I want to throw that in there. She's really a big fan.
There is nothing wrong with that movie. It's a wonderful movie. I have to admit, when I first heard this, I was a little surprised. If you know Joe, he's kind of an intellectual, sort of comes off as a little bit serious, and but it shows his true Chestertonian nature. I think that he has this side of lightness and fun. Because it is a very fun rendition of the story of Scrooge. And again, yeah, Michael Caine is wonderful in it, but it's a very true rendition, I think, of the story, and that's part of why it's so wonderful. It was a part of my childhood watching that movie, as my dad was a big fan of the Muppets. It's just sort of this cozy introduction, if you will, to Dickens, and I think it's a nice gateway for children to Dickens.
I think one of the points that I like about A Christmas Carol is that it's been offered in so many different versions over the years, whether it's been theatrical as far as movies or theatrical as far as actually being on stage. Um, and the story just comes through in just about every way that it could be told, and so I'm glad that Joe shared his favorite version, and m- my wife really loves it, but we also really like enjoy the version with George C. Scott, a very sort of classic version. But I prompted some people the other day to ask them, about their favorite Christmas movie or their favorite version of A Christmas Carol, and people were sort of listing versions I haven't even heard of yet. And they're like, "Oh
Mm.
no, I love this version, or I love that version." And I think what's great is that that story is able to come through to a wide audience of people, and sort of the message that Dickens tried to portray in his story. So that's a great thing about A Christmas Carol. You don't have to worry about, well, I don't like that version. Well, that's okay. There's another version for you out there somewhere. You just got to go find it.
Next, we'll share a beautiful memory with Rose, our Director of Membership here at the Society, as she shares the joy of Christmas as seen through the eyes of children.
My name is Rose Gaboretsky, and I'm the Director of Membership here at the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. And my favorite Christmas tradition is Christmas morning. I'm not an early bird naturally, but I am up before the crack of dawn on Christmas morning because I'm so excited for presents and stockings before church. I'm especially excited this year. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter, Ruby, and I can't wait to see her face on Christmas morning when she comes out and sees the tree all decorated and lit up with the presents underneath. And after we do stockings and coffee and presents, we get all dressed up and head to church for early morning Christmas Mass. I always tear up as we start "O Come All Ye Faithful" at the beginning of Mass, and I just love experiencing that with my family every Christmas morning.
Oh, Christmas with little children.
It is a completely different experience. Absolutely, completely different experience.
It's yeah, there's something about being the orchestrator and being able to kind of know what's coming, and then being able to witness the absolute joy and the especially if your kids are young, the really genuine amazement that comes at Christmas that really can only come at Christmas is something very special.
We're up to 4 small children now, ranging from 7 to also almost a 1.5-year-old. And what's great is being able to watch all the different levels of reactions because, our eldest is going to have, and, I use that a little loosely, a little bit more of a mature reaction, but still very much childlike. And I anticipate that our youngest is going to sort of gasp and just have sounds of glee, and the lights and the presents and that opportunity to celebrate. And my wife and I will sit back and we will enjoy watching them experience that Christmas day in really only a way that I think parents can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we chose to have a small Christmas tree this year that we could keep up high because the 1-year-old is a 1-year-old, and she walked early and she likes to eat everything, and we've already fished some needles from last year out of her mouth, so we thought, let's not. But I got the little tree out and I got all the lights on it the other day and some little ornaments, and she has really just wanted to be held so that she could be close to it and reach out to it and babble about it in her little 1-year-old way. And I'm really looking forward to her reaction on Christmas Day to the presents and the stockings and going to Mass and seeing the creche. It's going to be really fun.
So, our next story comes to us from our very own Nancy Brown, who many of you remember, as Gredlin reminded me, our former podcast host. So we took the reins from her. But she's still around. She's still a very active and devoted volunteer. And we'll take the opportunity now to hear Nancy's take on Christmas stories and memories.
Hi, this is Nancy Brown, volunteer for the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton, and author of The Woman Who Was Chesterton, a biography of the life of Frances, Gilbert's wife. According to Chesterton, we are in the Thanksgiving part of Christmas and will be until Twelfth Night. What does Chesterton mean by Thanksgiving of Christmas? In the Illustrated London News from December 28, 1935, we find Chesterton bemoaning the fact that everyone talks incessantly about the holiday up till Christmas Day, and then it all turns off just when Christmas really begins. He says we should take the holiday of Thanksgiving and put it after Christmas so we can celebrate the celebration we just celebrated. I can picture you now listening to this podcast while you handwrite out your thank you notes. And now you're watching your favorite holiday movie, which, if you're like me, is either Muppet Christmas Carol, Christmas in Connecticut, or White Christmas. You might be digesting a stocking full of candy. Again, if you're like me, those are chocolate-covered cherries. While relaxing on your couch, staring at the mesmerizing colored spots on the ceiling that the Christmas lights make. You're still listening to those glorious Christmas carols, and if you're like me, your favorite one is How Far Is It to Bethlehem? Lyrics by Frances Chesterton. Now, if you're like me, you still have a few ginger snaps and shortbread spritz cookies left to eat, which you will do just after you get on that stationary bike and ride a few miles to work up an appetite. All of our most favorite cookies, a family recipe we call cherry chip cookies, are unfortunately gone. But the memory of a cake-like cookie covered in delicate pink cherry frosting, dipped in colored jimmies, or what you might call sprinkles, will last me till next year. One of my favorite things to do in the quiet days after Christmas is sit by the fireplace with our basket of Christmas cards and letters and slowly read over each one again, savoring the friendships and the love that is sent with each one. If you haven't sent out cards yet this year, it's not too late to send out Thanksgiving for Christmas cards. Chesterton would approve. On behalf of the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton, I'm wishing you and your loved ones and friends a very Merry Christmas.
I have to jump in there because I want to note that our Christmas cookies have been decimated. There's no more cookies. 2, we've just about cleared out our Christmas candy thanks to having 4 small children in the house as well. So that part we have enjoyed.
Yeah, I've been eating Christmas cookies since Friday, unfortunately, for my waistline. But what a wonderful collection, a sort of bouquet of Christmas memories. I have to say, I've never met anyone else who also likes Christmas in Connecticut, so thank you for that, Nancy. If you haven't seen that one, it is a comedy of errors at Christmas time that is quite a farcical joy to watch. So highly recommend, along with Nancy Brown.
I think really what I just took away from Nancy is just the continuation of Christmas, to emphasize that Christmas was not just one day, that Christmas is a true celebration of multiple days. I mean, 12 days, actually a few more. We got to get to, Epiphany. But really, truly, this Christmas is a season to continue to celebrate and not to just sort of wrap it up and put it away after the 25th of December.
Absolutely. Looking forward to many more weeks of seeing our house and our church and as many places as will continue to leave things up decorated, and enjoy them into the new year.
Okay, so moving down the list, we're almost done. We move to Jessica and her Christmas story, which is a great sort of family story.
Hello, I am Jessica Altier, and I am the local society liaison and communications coordinator for the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. And I would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a happy Advent season. And as we begin to prepare for this Christmas season, I would just like to share a very special Christmas memory and tradition that my grandpa started. Now, my grandpa is very skilled in carpentry, and one year he decided to make a nativity scene to display in his front yard. So he cut up pieces of wood and put them together to make some silhouette forms of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and he painted them in all white. Then he made a manger to place Jesus in, and he put them out in his front yard, in front of the road, to prepare for Christ's birth. And he only placed Jesus in the manger on Christmas Day. At night, a small light would come on to illuminate the white shapes of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph against the dark greens and browns of a Florida winter night. After this, every year, he added more to the nativity scene. One year, he made a donkey with a pregnant Mary riding on it, with Joseph leading them gently with a rope. And he would come out every night to move them just a bit closer to their final destination of the manger. Another year, he added the shepherds and their sheep, moving ever closer to where Jesus lay. And another year, he made the wise men and their camels as they slowly traveled across the lawn to meet the Christ child. Each of these pieces required multiple layers of wood to give it depth, so that it would stand out beautifully white in the day against the green grass sprinkled with white flowers that we call Florida snow. And one year, to top everything off, he even made an angel out of foam, and he hung it in a tree over Jesus' manger. And every year after that, a few neighbors would stop by to tell him how much they loved the nativity scene and how their kids were always excited to find out what had changed from the day before, and how everyone loved how the figures would slowly progress to their destinations throughout the Advent season. Looking back on it now, I realize how special that time was. Not only as it was something fun, but it was a way to journey with Mary and Joseph and to be consciously preparing for the birth of Christ. And it is a reminder that Christ does not end after he is born, but continues on as the shepherds, the magi, and we go to meet our King. So that is my favorite memory in Christmas tradition, and thank you for listening.
So sweet. I love that. I love the idea of the sort of the creche kind of building and building over the years. That's wonderful. Uh, I'll share my official memory in a minute. This is kind of a mini memory that makes me think of. My family liked to put our nativity. They had like one of those big white ones that light up from the inside, and they would put them on the roof. And of course, Jesus couldn't go out until Christmas Eve. So I have some very stressful memories of standing in an upstairs bedroom while my dad and sometimes a brother would be out on the roof, like trying not to slip and fall off the roof and get Jesus in there. And we're singing like Silent Night, like as they slip and slide. Um, no one ever fell off the roof, thank God.
There's that concept of building over time and the journey of it is interesting. There was a priest in the city that I grew up in, and he has since passed away, but he had this tradition of building out the creche and the nativity to literally, it was hundreds of pieces. Like it just grew and grew, and people would donate pieces, and he stopped sort of at some point trying to make everything match. Like there was different sized, shepherds and different angels. He even had different animals that should have not even been present at that time period. But his
Pandas
concept,
and
yeah, his concept was that it was this opportunity to sort of really sort of let it be a not just something that he did, but something that everyone could share in.
mm,
So he let that come through in all of these different pieces that he had. And it was a sight to see. It really was. I don't know if that tradition was carried on or if that passed on with him. But I think to sort of invest in that is a way that, yeah, you can journey and you can bring others. And obviously, it was a very special experience for Jessica growing up.
mm. Very, very, very beautiful. Um, well, I'll take this opportunity to share my favorite Christmas memory uh, slash tradition. So, as a few of you might know, in addition to being a podcast host and the director of development at the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton, I'm also a professionally trained opera singer.
And she's good, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, she's
Oh,
good.
okay. I have a lot of fun singing, but um, neither of my parents are particularly musical. My dad can play one song on the guitar, like literally one song. And they can both carry a tune, but like nothing, extraordinary. I think they would both admit that. But 5 of their 9 children decided to pursue music in a more serious way, and a few of us have made careers or like semi-careers out of it. And I really attribute this to our first choir director at the Catholic Church where I grew up. Assumption Church had a really great organ and a sort of a big, vibrant community, which attracted a really great choir director who had a unpronounceable French last name, so we called him Dr. D.
Yes.
I could potentially say it now, but he might be, I don't know. If he ever listens, I don't want him to hear me butcher his name. But Dr. D was a very special person. I had no idea how special until I kind of grew up and realized that the rest of the world, most places did not have the quality of music that we had. But he had a real sense of beauty. He had great taste in music, and he really knew not only how to teach us to sing, but he imparted to us this sort of passion and love for music. And of course, the sort of culmination of every year was the Christmas concert. And no matter what we sang, it was pretty much in the grand style of, Westminster Cathedral every time, but lots of processing and candles and things, and red choir robes with white surplices. It was great. But it would always start in the dark with one choir boy up in the loft. Usually his name was Jonathan. He was a very good boy soprano. And he would just sing in this lovely, clear voice, Once in Royal David City, the first verse. And the whole concert just kind of started that way. And then the choir would come in and process down to the front. And it was sort of like the signal in my mind for Christmas. Like, since I was, started singing when I was 7 years old, this was like, Christmas has started. Jonathan is singing Once in Royal David City. Again, a beautiful and sort of lesser known hymn that I would encourage everyone to go and listen to. But yeah, I'm just very thankful for this choir director that I had, and for the beautiful vision that he had and the passion that he was able to impart, such that I have really nothing but good musical memories connected with church up through my entire childhood.
Again, I think it's just a reiteration of what beautiful music can do to sort of bring us closer to our experience of Christ. And whether it's Christmas, whether it's Easter, whether it's just a Sunday in ordinary time, but just beautiful music is such a powerful force. And thank God that there are people that love music the way that you do that can help to share that, because it might be a little less sort of exciting without beautiful music, around the world that people share with everyone else.
Mm. Amen. And thank God for people who are able to impart that passion. Really thankful for that. Well, for our very last Christmas memory, we have from our office manager, Ruth, who shares this extremely sweet and heartfelt memory with us.
Hi, my name is Ruth Ann Loxon, and I am the Director of Operations here at the American Chesterton Society. And my favorite Christmas story is when I was 8. I had asked my parents for a guitar. And when I woke up that morning, there it was, brand new guitar just for me. My dad was very good at making sure that his kids got something that they really wanted, even though we didn't come from a lot of money. That's my story.
I loved her story. I just loved her story, and I was the one that got to record that with her, and what a genuine and heartfelt moment and memory for Ruth.
Yeah, really can sense the gratitude and the wonder, and reminds you of the Chesterton quote about, getting things you sort of don't deserve as a blessing. You find in your stocking presents that you didn't deserve to have, and you find in your stocking 2 legs that you didn't deserve to have. It's all sort of by the grace of God. Such a beautiful, beautiful memory.
And I think it's, Chesterton obviously speaks to, gratitude. And I think that's something that, unfortunately, as a society, that we lose a lot of. And Christmas is a wonderful time to sort of regrow our sense of gratitude. Because I think we can just sort of, Christmas can come and go, and we can miss the opportunity to be thankful, truly, really thankful for all the things that we have, whether they were wrapped in paper, stuffed in our stockings, or just the other gifts that we get to experience on a daily basis. So it's something that maybe we all should refresh ourselves in every Christmas, the opportunity to really reflect on the things that we should be grateful for.
Especially as I sort of feel in the subtext of Ruth's memory that the people that God has given us, I sense that story isn't really about the guitar so much as it's about her father. It's just a sort of a beautiful way to remember that God has given us people in our lives that have given us so much, and there's no way to repay those kinds of gifts except to try our very best to live in gratitude and to sort of pass on that kind of love and wonder and Christmas spirit, for lack of a better phrase.
Hear, hear. The world could use more Christmas spirit, but they could use more Christmas spirit 365 days a year. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been joining us on this special Merry Christmas edition of Uncommon Sense, where we have been retracing favorite stories, memories, traditions from the staff at the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. And I want to encourage all of you to take some time this Christmas season to remember a favorite memory, to remember a favorite tradition that maybe you hadn't thought of, that maybe you had forgotten, and that it will help to remind us all about the greater purpose of this Christmas that we celebrate. So again, from me, and I'm sure for Gredlin as well, and everyone at the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton, we wish you such a very happy and blessed Merry Christmas. And Gredlin, again to you, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you so much for joining in this wonderful, heartwarming episode.
Merry Christmas, Albert. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that this podcast is available in a bunch of places: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. So wherever you're at, subscribe, hit notifications, leave us a review. Be on the lookout for more episodes coming up in 2023 with some changes coming. It's going to be a surprise for all of you, but we hope that it will be something to be excited about. So with that, I leave you to finish your 2022, and we look forward to continuing this journey in the next year. And remember, Chesterton is always better with friends. Merry Christmas.